Today's infographic is about the burnout rates by industries. So the first thing I do is look for inspiration where burnout is concerned. I always want to see if something similar has been done before and to get a sense of how others have approached it. In this case, I search for burnout illustrations on Pinterest because I feel it's a really good place to start gathering ideas. Now I'll open the different versions that catch my interest in a new tab. So I like the idea of a burn matchstick, and I'll go with that. So I keep scrolling down to see what other related content pops up. This is usually a critical step in any project, no matter what I'm working on. It doesn't have to be Illustrator specific, it could be other design projects, but the idea is to get those initial creative juices flowing. I find that sourcing different inspiration really helps me to get a sense of what's possible. So now that I have a pretty good idea of the style I'm going for, something that has to do with matchsticks to represent like burnout, I head over to Freepik to see what's available there for matchsticks. So I start browsing for pre-made vector illustrations. Freepik is honestly so helpful because if I had to do all the illustrations myself, it would add a whole lot more time to the project. And since I already paid for this amazing resource, why not use it? Still on Pinterest here, I'm going to grab this image here, copy it, Command C for Mac users, Control C for Windows, and jump over to Adobe Illustrator. So I use Illustrator for pretty much all my infographic designs. I've got a template I like to work with that already has all the layers set up. Makes things nice and organized for me. So I'll just paste this image right into my inspo layer. So I like to keep about 5 or 6 inspiration images directly in my Illustrator file. I think it's a great way to stay focused on the visual style I'm going for, sort of like a constant visual reminder throughout the design process. So now I am going to spend a couple more minutes gathering some more inspiration images, and then we'll move on to the next stage. Alright, so I'm going to skip ahead a bit here. I already have a good idea of the layout I want in my head, but first I need to grab some colors from my inspiration images, which is what I'm doing here. I'm really liking the red and the yellow, maybe not that specific red though. Yeah, I think I prefer this one up here. And I also like this blue, it's a nice blue. And what else? I think I like this cream color as well. Yeah, so I'll go with these 4 colors for now. Things might change as I go, but these are the ones that are speaking to me right now. Okay, so next I'm going to lock my inspo layer and head over to the background layer. I'll create a rectangle for the background and fill it with this cream color. For now, like I said, everything can change and will change. I am always sure of that in every project that I work on. So now, with the background layer locked, it's time to create my chart. I've already got my data prepared in Google Sheets. Initially, I wanted to do burnout rate around the world, but like by country. I could only find data readily available by industry. Still interesting stuff, I think. So I'm going to copy that and bring it into Illustrator. Here in my Illustrator templates, I'll go to the charts layer. I also have a maps layer, but I won't be needing that for this infographic, so I'll just hide it. Now I am drawing the chart out here, kind of out of bounds for now. I haven't set up my guides yet, so let's do that now. Guides are super helpful for keeping your layout organized. You can use a grid of rectangles, columns, or just a single rectangle like I am doing here. I want to have good spacing around the edges so my design has room to breathe. I'm aiming for about 100 points between the content and the edge of the canvas. So once I do that, I add a stroke to the guide so it doesn't distract me too much, and I make sure it's on the guide layer. So I think it's a bit tight, but we'll go with it for now. So now the guide has been done. It's time to grab the column graph tool and paste in the data from the Google Sheets. So I'm going with the column graph tool because I have this idea of using a matchstick to visually represent burnout, kind of like the inspiration I got from Pinterest in like the first stage of all this. So I'll make a copy of this graph just so I have the original data intact while I work my magic on the copy. So now let's see how the other elements will fit around it. I think the chart itself is the style you show here, with the other elements acting as supporting characters. So I add some placeholders for the text. Sometimes I use rectangles for this, but for now I'll just use the default font. So I already have the layout in my head, but I probably should have started with that first in retrospect. Oh well, next time, I guess. I'm going for a header or a subheader, maybe a brief intro. Just filling this with some placeholder text for now. So now let's align these text containers to the guide. Still not loving the guide, but we'll press on. Now for a placeholder for the callout insights. I think the size is too small, 26 points should be good. Generally, I try to keep my font size at 26 points minimum, especially for explanatory infographics like this. So maybe 26, 24, around that range. So you see there are two main types of infographics: explanatory infographics and exploratory infographics. So explanatory infographics deliver insights quickly, while the explanatory ones encourage readers to zoom in and really take their time to understand data. Now, making sure everything stays within the bounds of my guide. I think this is looking good so far. Everything is aligned. But I think the guide is a bit too close to the edge, so I'll adjust that real quick. So I think this is the fun part of design, just playing around with things until they look right. So like I said, I have a layout in mind that is guiding me, so even though I am moving things around, I still have that layout as my guiding lights essentially. So now I want to see how the labels will fit. Starting with hospitality, I obviously can't place it horizontally, so I'll go vertically. Right align. And information services and data processing is the longest word, so I'm going to shorten it. So I'll just call it information and data processing. I think it's the same thing. No, I hope so. So it's still a bit long, so I'll break it in 2 lines. And I think that's perfect. Well, as perfect as it can be at this stage. So now to align everything and add the rest of the labels. Okay, so now I need to figure out how to include the matchsticks. I want to use a matchstick image and show the burned out parts to represent the burnout rate. But I just realized I have a problem. I only have the actual burnout rate, not the 100% parts. So let me explain. I want part of the matchstick to represent the burnout rate with the whole matchstick representing 100%. Does that make sense? Well, we'll figure it out. It never hurts to experiment. Right about now, I am glad I didn't delete my original graph. I can just copy the data, paste it here, and add 100 to it. There we go. So I duplicate again and repeat. If you know a more efficient way to do this, let me know in the comments. I am all ears or all eyes, as this case warrants. So I'm trying to align this. So we'll remove that. That's our 100% mark. Something feels off at this point, but I'm not really sure about it. So I'll just keep going and bring in the matchstick. Skipping ahead a bit, I'm making sure everything is aligned with 100% mark. So now I can compress it as needed. I still have my 100%. And yeah, so time for the matchstick. Do I like this one? Not really. Let's try another one. This one looks promising. So let's see what we can do with these. I'll bring these into my project. I have a layer for them called icons. Layers are a lifesaver, like truly life-saving stuff. They make it so much easier to organize my work. I mean, I used to hate layers. Well, maybe not hate, but I just didn't understand them for a while. But I'm glad that I have seen the light. They're really essential for infographics like this. So now I need to make all the matchsticks the same size as the 100% mark. So this is where you need to be extra careful with your alignment. Zoom in as much as you need to. I'll hit Command Y to see the outlines. I think it's looking good. I'll do the same for the other matchsticks. Finally, I'll set up a base point for each matchstick, making sure the chart parts align with the bar graph for each industry. This way the visual aligns with the data and I can adjust from here as needed. I'm pretty good so far, but I think this spacing is still a bit too tight. So let's remove the chart for a moment and bring back our guides. I'm going to reduce the width of this guide, holding shifts as I drag to maintain the proportions. I want to create some more breathing room here. So I'll grab the end of the guide and distribute the matchsticks evenly. A bit more adjustments. So I'll just keep reducing and distributing until I get the spacing just right. So now let's add the actual burnout rate values. I want these to be bigger than the labels, so I'll play around with the font size a bit. Yeah, so that looks good. So time to choose a font for the header. So I'm kind of liking this one, so I'll go for something similar. I'll try to avoid the usual suspects like entire helvetical or playfair display. Now it is, there is that joke that designers only use like 5% of their font library, or is it 1%? But personally, I'm trying to branch out and explore some different options here. So I'm just going to play around with different fonts and colors and see what works and what doesn't. After playing around with a few different options, I ended up with these fonts. Sarasvati looks very elegant and I love it, but it's completely off the point for this infographic. There's nothing elegant about Burnout, if you agree with me. I think Burnout is rugged, it's filled with anxiety and exhaustion, as if your life force is being sucked or burned away. So I don't think Sarasvati works at all. So what I'll do to figure something out is to see if there's like any Burnout font or typeface, just something that can inspire my choice of font. So I go back to Pinterest. So I like this one. I like the boldness of how it starts and then how it stings out. I think that's really interesting. So what else? I like this as well. It has that kind of rough matchbox feel to it. So I'm just going to explore some more and see what I find. After exploring some options, I landed on this font called Fires. And I love how the flames are incorporated into the letters and how it ties nicely with the matchsticks below. So I'm really liking how everything is coming together. So I paired Fires with another font called Micro, however you want to pronounce it, for the subtitle. I think the flames really capture the theme of being actively exhausted, as if your strength is being burned away, literally. I also added a subtle texture to the background to give it more depth. I'm still not completely sold on the color, but we'll see how it looks as we go. Another part that's okay. I had a feeling something was off, and I'm so glad I caught it when I did. I realized that the burnout rate on the matchsticks should actually be represented by the burn part, because right now it seems a bit counterintuitive to leave it this way, since we had the opportunity to use the chart part to visually show that as a percentage and not the part that's okay. So now I'm going to show you the superpower of layers as I fix the matchsticks. But before that, I have an idea. What if we turn this into a bar chart instead of a column chart? Kind of like the way placing the charts in a horizontal format, like matchsticks in a box instead of in a vertical column like this. But before I do any of that, I need to make a copy of my work. Always make a copy of your work, because if, for example, if I just work directly on this, it will be disastrous for me if I want to go back to the original layout. So here's where layers come in handy. I can easily toggle them on and off to see how things would work horizontally. So right now I just want to see how it would work and if it would make sense. I really love being able to explore ideas quickly like this. Again, this is just my workflow. There's no one right way to do this, to do things like this, but I just want to show you how I approach it. So think of this as behind the scenes look at my process. Everyone has their own way of working, and this is mine. I'm going to do a quick Google search to see if I can find a matchstick. And this caught my attention. I think this is perfect, so I'll bring it over to the inspo layer on my workspace. I think I'm on track with the Matchbox idea. I'm playing around with adding a border to create the box effect, but I'm not liking it at all. I'll also fix the matchsticks, so the charred parts represent the burnout rate. I'm not sure I love this layout as it looks right now, but I'm going to see it through to the end and see what happens. So I sped through the rest of the design process and ended up with this layout, but to be honest, I wasn't completely happy with it. I ended up going with this version instead. And I have a confession to make. I actually forgot to hit record while working on this final piece. But don't worry, I'll give you a quick rundown of the changes. The biggest difference is the color. I switched to red, which I felt was more suitable to the topic than the previous color. It also complements the graphic really nicely. I also went back to the column charts instead of the bar charts, since I find that placing them vertically was much more visually stimulating. Still, I'm glad I experimented a bit and settled on my original idea. There's absolutely nothing wrong with experimenting. I also added smoke to the hospitality column since it had the highest burnout rate. So it's meant to really visualize that feeling of peak mental exhaustion, like smoke coming out of your ears, that kind of thing. So this is why I started. Then I explored this idea and finally arrived at this version. It's always interesting to me to see how many iterations a project goes through. I got lucky this time. It only took 2 versions to get something I liked and I felt was visually sound. Sometimes I go through 5 or 6 versions before I land on a design that really resonates. I'm happy with the fonts, the color, and how the matchsticks tie everything together to represent burnout. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts. Is there anything I could have done differently? What would you have done? Did you learn anything new that you can apply to your own work? Even better, maybe you could tackle the same project and share your results with me. I'll share the data and source in the description below. My purpose with this video is to give you a peek behind the scenes of how infographics like this come to be. I want to share the ideas, the reasons and decisions behind it. But the biggest takeaway I hope you get is this. At their core, infographics are just charts. Your goal should be to turn these basic charts into something fun and visually engaging so that you can really tell the story of the data. And of course, you have to stay true to the data. No matter how visually engaging it is, if it doesn't stay true to the data, I think you're way off course. So that's all for today. I'm planning to make more videos like this in the future where I show behind the scenes of the works I create. I hope you learned something new, and I apologize if the video was a bit rambling at times. I promise to keep improving with each one I make. Thanks again for listening. I'd appreciate a like if you indeed like the video, and I encourage you to say something nice in the comment section. Please say something nice. And yeah, subscribe if this is something you enjoy and would love to see more of. Have a great day, everyone.